Hi everyone, my name is Tom Denford. I'm the co-founder and CEO of ID Comms. Welcome to another episode of Media Snack Meets, where we get to meet the individuals and organizations doing great work to inspire success and drive change through the global media and marketing industry. Because the best are short on time, our guests answer just 6 questions in 15 minutes or less, and we get to learn what is behind their success, what it takes to make change in the industry, and maybe what the rest of us can learn from those experiences. My guest for this week is Eileen Kiernan, who is the global CEO of media agency Hi guys.
Hello, gentlemen.
Where are you? There you are.
Cheers.
Hello, Eileen.
Tom, nice to see you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Very good to see you. Thank you for coming on the show.
Glad to be here.
So you are now, well, not recently, but you have been for a while, global CEO of which those keen viewers will know is one of the major networks within the IPG group, the media networks. So our first question is just tell us what you do in that role, and also I'd love to hear something that you're very proud of, either in your current role or something in your media industry, in your media career that you're very proud of.
Yeah, what do I do in my role? That's a very interesting question. That's a harder question than it should be. Well, is all about future-proofing its clients' businesses by leaning very heavily into the change that's happening around us and using that change and that innovation to unlock new sources of growth. So I spend a lot of my time in the product space really thinking about capabilities and how those capabilities will translate into new sources of value. So that's how my days get spent. In terms of what I'm most proud of, I think 2 things come to mind. The first is, this may sound a tad trite, but considering the 1.5 years or thereabouts that we've just gone through, I couldn't be more proud than I am of our people, of our community, of our culture. We put extraordinary pressure on our folks over the course of the past 15 or so months to step up in extraordinary ways at a time when the world around them was at times cataclysmic. It certainly felt that way at times. And people stepped up in so many ways, just above and beyond, both for the business and for each other. And I think if ever we thought about culture as being a soft weapon in terms of its business role or its role in business, I would argue we learned this past 1.5 years that culture, community, certainly our people are our biggest competitive advantage. So I'm terribly proud of our community. And the other thing that comes to mind is I'm really proud of our potential. I think having gone through last summer and the social reckoning that happened here in the US and what that has meant to our business is that ripple effect around equity has challenged us to step up and do more.
Yep.
I think I'm beginning to really experience and see what stepping up to do more looks like and feels like, and the potential for us to be a force for good is rather extraordinary. And I feel quite proud of how we're leaning forward today and where we have to go next, which I think is quite far.
Good. Okay, so let's on to that. We touched on some, obviously, a passion point there for media is people and culture, critical component of agency success, as we know. Aside from those, what in your mind is the best thing about the media industry and working in media?
It's the best thing and the worst thing, right? It's the rate of change that we're experiencing. Media is extraordinary. The past 10 years has just been like, if I could think about the chapters we've gone through from media getting to a point of accountability back in 2014, 2015, to taking addressability and personalization head on in 2017 and forward to where we are today with full funnel work into the creative spaces. I mean, the rate of innovation and the amount of ingenuity it takes to be in media is incredible. So if you are somebody who likes to be creative, if you're naturally entrepreneurial, if your culture leans in that direction, this is a great space for you. And it's a really, really exciting space because that rate of change just gets faster and faster every year.
Yeah. And I suppose, I mean, you may have perhaps a slightly biased perspective on this, but what is it about IPG Group? Does that give you that freedom to be entrepreneurial as a CEO within the group? Because not all groups are the same, as we say to advertisers all the same, not all the time. Not all these holding companies are all the same. Well, they're not all organised or engineered the right way. What is it within IPG that allows, because I've heard you say that before, what is it that allows you that freedom?
That's a very good question. I can only really speak with great confidence about IPG because that's where I've been for the past 8.5 years. But what I will say about IPG and what keeps me motivated and highly engaged is we're still very brand focused. So our agency brands are full of diverse skills and expertise to organize around our clients' needs in very, very bespoke ways. And what has been pulled to the center is more areas of enablement, technology, data, etc. And I think in some of the other holding companies, a lot more has been centralized and taken out of the agency proper. And I think for me as an agency CEO, when I'm trying to drive that level of creativity and innovation, it wouldn't happen if we weren't on the front line solving problems with our clients in the same way. So it all depends on what kind of culture you want to be and what kind of staff and talent you want to attract. But for UM in particular, I'm looking for entrepreneurial people who want to create new things and break into new categories and grow the pie. So I'm very glad that IPG gives me a place to do that and a rich and fertile territory in which to create.
Good, love that. Cool. So let's think about some of the challenges which you've hinted at earlier, and there are many, at least.
Well, I mean, it really.
But what else have we got?
It really is. It's all about speed, isn't it? I mean, every opportunity comes with a cost, and I think we're all trying to keep up, but not specific just to media, but every industry is falling behind consumer change and at the rate of consumer change. So there's this gap between where we are and where consumers are. We find that gap exhilarating and motivating versus paralyzing. That being said, it's still full of very contradictory opposing forces. We're leaning very heavily towards growth goals and growth objectives, and yet at the same time we're navigating legacy models and savings commitments. We're highly consolidated in terms of how our spend works with platforms and big players, and yet we're trying to navigate the world of minority-owned media to make sure we're putting our fair share in those spaces. So there are all these contradictory things that are happening. We're trying to put humanity back at the center of what we do to elevate consumer experiences, and yet we're obsessed with the cookieless world. So there's all this kind of like complexity and things that do not coexist comfortably together. And I think we're trying to find in all this complexity just magic where these opposing forces combust together and create something net new. Because from the outside looking in, I think we just look crazy. But from the inside, all of this stuff just manages to kind of come together in a way that ultimately creates something different and unique and hopefully better.
Yeah, good. And is UM, I mean, how is UM different from other media agencies, would you say? And I maybe that's putting you on the spot a little bit, but that sometimes advertisers do have that, what used to be the case. So it's hard sometimes to tell one media agency from another because maybe a lot of the conversation was about price and access and flexibility and things like that, and maybe less about people and culture and ideas. But in your mind, as it running that agency now, what do you think your points of difference are versus other agencies?
I think you're right. I think it's a tremendous challenge. I think we all tell very, very similar stories, but I think our bag of goods, if you will, our weaponry, it's not all the same. And I think if you look very, very closely at what we're doing and how we're doing it, take a look at Axiom, for example. Axiom is an acquisition that IPG made back in 2017. It's the world's largest people-based data stack, the most ethically sourced and the most global in nature. So having an asset like that in our arsenal when it comes to having global conversations, not just around access to data, but access to insights and real people to make better choices, to really connect, makes our ability to do that quite different. I do disagree with the premise though. I think for those who really understand the craft of media, when they dig in closely, they'll see the differences. But I still do believe that ultimately people by chemistry, people by a sense of the je ne sais quoi that they feel in the room or in the Zoom, as the case may be, over the past 15 months, that this team of people will just go to battle with them in a way that other teams wouldn't, and that there's a sense of trust that's being built, and the future feels like it'll be friendlier, brighter, more fun, and the hard times will just be navigated with greater ease. So I still think people by people at the end of the day. Yeah,
good. So you're the leader of those people, and how many thousands of people do you have within UM?
About 5,000 people globally.
Okay, so as their leader, I mean, this is our next question, which is either a piece of leadership advice that either you've been given that's been helpful to you in that role, or that's something that which you frequently give to others.
it's a very top of mind question for me, Tom, because in my role, not all things are easy. And I do think long and hard about how you manage stress and think about and navigate difficult times. I was told recently in the last couple of months about a quote that something Maya Angelou said to Dave Chappelle in an interview a few years back. And it just stuck with me. And if you can imagine Maya Angelou's voice saying this, and the quote was, "If you don't pick it up, you don't have to carry it." And that's become this incredible mantra for me as I think about things I can't control or things that would normally make me worry myself out of sleep on a given evening. That's not going to change the outcome. And it's become a real skill for me to balance and manage just how to move forward into doing the things that I can do and just letting go of the stuff I can't control. So that's been an incredibly powerful piece of advice somebody gave me that I'm now sharing back to you.
We like that. I'm going to collect all of these. I mean, some of our guests have
write a book. Gonna write a book.
Yeah, should be. I'm sure there's plenty of books with these kind of things in them already. A lot of them are from great books already, I suppose. But it's that when you're in that position as leader, that's it, isn't it? Trying to not take on the burden of everything on everyone's behalf. That's not your job, but to create the conditions in which success can happen, and sometimes does not get in the way of that. I love that. Right, outside of media, I know that you're very passionate about the dogs, which I don't think we can hear in the background. But what else keeps you busy? I mean, when you just need to really step away and get some headspace, where would we find you?
Yeah, well, I'm a big animal lover. My house is full of animals. I have 4 cats, 2 dogs, 2 birds, a fish pond. I live in the woods. There are often strays of other types that end up staying here for a period of time. So I'm very passionate about my animals and my family, of course. Interestingly, over the past 15 months, I have grown into a love of walking and hiking. And all my life, my mother was a massive walker, and she had to get out for her daily constitutional, and I would make fun of her for this daily walk that she would do. And now I find myself in a position, obviously I've been working from home now for more or less for 15 months. And one of my sanity busters is to get out for a walk, take a call and do it from the road and just go trekking. And on the weekend, get up in the mountains, go see some nature and spend some time with the trees and the grass. And I find that it's going to sound so corny, but that kind of communing with nature, just being out in nature, just a game changer for me. So I hope when the world gets back to whatever new normal looks like, I hope I keep some sense of that daily constitutional, because I think it's a great place to be, and I want to hang on to it.
Good, I love that. Right, let's look ahead as we wrap up. So I always ask all our guests, a year from now, we've talked about some of the challenges and some of the exciting things that are going on in the media industry, but a year from now, in a strange year still, where would you like us to be to have made really good progress?
Yeah, I mentioned those opposing forces, and I've given this great thought. I think a lot about my legacy. I'm not starting out in my career. I'm probably more towards the end part of my career, not ending, hopefully, just yet. But I do think about how we live into the moment that's in front of us or around us right now. And I do feel a huge sense of opportunity to step into the equity space and do more. I genuinely believe that what's happening in the equity space and in the conversations around inclusion and how money gets spent will go the way of brand safety. And I think consumers are going to hold us to a higher standard. And we're making a lot of decisions to think about how we support news differently and make sure it's fair news with good standards, how we think about diversifying spend into different kinds of categories of spend, and certainly with minority owners, and how to track that back to business growth. So we're giving those spaces a huge amount of thought and effort right now. And I hope for the chapter I have ahead of me at that there's some good I can do in that space and just do better. I think we all have to do better.
Eileen, Kiernan, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
Who would you like to meet on future episodes? Please let us know in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel, where you will also find previous guests, including leading media executives from companies like P&G, L'Oreal, Mars, MasterCard, and many more. Plus some of the industry's most provocative thought leaders, such as Belinda Smith, Jerry Dakin, Professor Mark Ritson, Nadine Cart-McHugh, and Gary Vaynerchuk. You can also subscribe to get new episodes each week, and if you like this episode and think someone else would, then please do share it. Thanks so much for watching.